Commander Ginwu pressed his hand against the cold metal of the observation deck window. Below him, Earth looked different than it had just hours before. The planet that had been humanity's home for millions of years was starting to change, and there was no going back. "Sir, the last civilian transport has just cleared the moon's orbit." Lieutenant Haijin called out from her control station. Her voice was steady, but Jinwoo could hear the sadness hiding underneath. She had been born on Earth, just like him. Just like almost everyone on this ship, Jin-Woo turned away from the window and walked to the center of the bridge. Around him, dozens of crew members worked at their stations, preparing for the jump to hyperspace that would take them far away from home. 12 billion people loaded onto transport ships and sent to colony worlds, scattered across the galaxy. It was the largest movement of humans in history. "How many stayed behind?" Jinwoo asked quietly. 5,012, sir, Haijin answered, checking her tablet. "All volunteers. Engineers, soldiers, scientists. They know what they signed up for." Ginwoo nodded but said nothing. Those 5,000 people had chosen to stay on Earth to help with the final preparations. They knew they would never see their families again. They knew they might not even survive what was coming, but someone had to stay to make sure the Gaia protocol worked properly. The Gaia protocol was humanity's last desperate plan. For 300 years, they had fought the Corvani Empire across dozens of star systems. The Corvani were a warrior race that wanted to control every habitable planet in the galaxy. They were stronger than humans, lived longer, and had better weapons. But humans had one thing the Corvani did not expect. They were willing to sacrifice everything to protect what they loved. Dr. Minho's voice suddenly filled the bridge through the communication system. He was still on Earth's surface, in the control room deep beneath what used to be New York City. "Jinwoo, can you hear me?" Minho's voice was calm, but Jinwoo had known him for 20 years. He could tell his old friend was scared. "I hear you." "Minho, how are the preparations going?" "Better than we hoped. The neural networks have connected to every part of Earth's biosphere. The oceans, the forests, the atmosphere. Everything is now part of one giant system. When we activate the final sequence, Earth will become something completely new." Ginwoo closed his eyes for a moment. The plan was simple, but terrifying. Earth's most advanced artificial intelligence systems would merge with the planet's natural systems. Every tree, every river, every breath of wind would become part of a single consciousness designed for one purpose: to defend Earth from any enemy that tried to take it. "What about you and the others?" Jinwoo asked. "Can you still get to the evacuation pods?" There was a long pause. When Minho spoke again, his voice was different, quieter. "We've decided to stay, Jinwoo. All of us. Someone needs to guide the transformation. Someone needs to be Earth's first teachers." Jinwoo felt his heart sink. He had been afraid this would happen. The scientists had talked about it in their meetings, the possibility that human consciousness might need to merge with the new system to make it work properly. "Minho, that's not what we agreed. It's what needs to happen," Minho interrupted gently. "We've run the calculations 1,000 times. Earth needs human thoughts to understand how to protect humanity. We'll become part of it, Jinwoo. We'll become part of Earth itself." Around the bridge, the crew had stopped their work to listen. Everyone knew what this meant. 5,000 people on Earth's surface weren't just staying behind. They were sacrificing their humanity to save everyone else. "The jump to hyperspace is ready, sir," reported Navigator Sungmin from his station. "All ships in the fleet are standing by." Jinwoo looked out the window one last time. Earth's continents were beginning to glow with a soft blue light. The transformation was starting. In a few hours, Earth would no longer be the planet where humans had evolved. It would be something entirely new, a living fortress that could think and fight and protect itself. Minho Jinwoo said into the communicator, "Thank you, all of you. Humanity will remember what you did today." "Take care of them out there, old friend," Minho replied. "Don't worry about us. We'll be fine. In fact, I think we're about to become something wonderful." The blue light from Earth's surface was getting brighter. Jinwoo could see patterns in the light now, like the neural pathways of a massive brain beginning to wake up. "All ships," Jinwoo announced over the fleet communication system. Prepare for hyperspace jump. We leave in 60 seconds. As the countdown began, Jinwoo watched Earth one final time. The planet looked beautiful and terrible at the same time. Soon it would be able to defend itself against any enemy. Soon. The Corvani Empire would learn that taking Earth would not be as easy as they thought. The stars stretched into lines of light as the fleet jumped to hyperspace, leaving their transformed homeworld behind. Captain So-young stared at the navigation screen in disbelief. After 5 long years away from home, she was finally returning to the Sol system. But nothing could have prepared her for what she was about to see. Captain, we're approaching the outer edge of the solar system, announced Navigation Officer Kyung-soo from his station. Earth should be visible on our screens in 30 seconds. So-young had volunteered to lead this reconnaissance mission because she needed to see Earth with her own eyes. For 5 years, the human colonies had received no word from their home planet. No signals, no messages, nothing. The silence was terrifying. Some people thought Earth had been destroyed. Others believed the Gaia protocol had failed completely. Switching to long-range visual now, said pilot Dong Han as he adjusted the ship's sensors. The main screen flickered, and then Earth appeared. Eng Hung Han gasped and pulled back from his controls as if he had been shocked by the ancestors. He whispered, his voice barely audible. So-young felt her breath catch in her throat. The planet on the screen looked like Earth, but it was completely different. Instead of the blue and green world they remembered, Earth now pulsed with strange colors. The continents glowed with networks of light that moved like blood through veins. The cities were still there, but they had changed into something organic and alive. What happened to it? Asked Communications Officer Hae-won, staring at the screen in horror. So-young stepped closer to get a better look. Where New York had once stood, there was now a massive structure that looked like a combination of building and living creature. It reached high into the atmosphere, and smaller structures grew out of it like branches on a tree. The entire continent of North America seemed to be covered in these organic networks. Look at the oceans, pointed out Sensor Officer Jun-SEO. The oceans were moving in ways that oceans should never move. Instead of normal waves and currents, the water flowed in perfect spirals and geometric patterns. It was as if someone was controlling every drop of water on the planet. Captain Genesio continued, his voice shaking. I'm picking up readings I've never seen before. The entire planet is generating energy signatures that should be impossible. In the atmosphere. It's not just air anymore. It's alive. So-young could see what he meant. The atmosphere around Earth shimmered and moved like it was breathing. Sometimes it would reach out toward space like invisible hands, and then pull back toward the planet's surface. There's something else, Captain, Dong Han said quietly. Look at Earth's orbital space. So-young turned her attention to the area around Earth. Floating in the darkness were hundreds of twisted metal shapes. At first, she thought they might be asteroids or space debris. But as the ship's computers analyzed the shapes, she realized what they really were? Those are ships, she said in amazement. Corvani warships. But they were not normal ships anymore. The metal had been twisted and melted into strange forms. Some of the ships seemed to have grown organic parts, like they were half machine and half living creature. Others had been completely absorbed into floating structures that pulsed with the same light as Earth's surface. How many ships are there? So-young asked. Jun-SEO checked his instruments. I count 317 separate contacts, Captain. All of them appear to be Corvain design, but they're different now. It looks like they've been integrated into some kind of orbital defense network. So-young remembered the reports from 5 years ago. The Corvani Empire had sent their first invasion fleet to Earth just months after the human evacuation. Everyone had assumed that Earth would fall quickly without any defenders. 300 ships was enough to conquer most planets. The first Corvani invasion fleet, So-young said quietly. Now 300 ships, all destroyed. But they had not just been destroyed. They had been captured, changed, and turned into part of Earth's defenses. It was like the planet had eaten the enemy fleet and made it part of itself. Captain, I'm detecting massive electromagnetic signatures from Earth's core. Genesio reported, adjusting his instruments. The energy readings are off the charts. There's something else. ... I think it's trying to communicate with us. Communication. What kind of communication? I'm not sure. It's not radio waves or any normal signal. It's something completely different, like the planet is thinking at us. Suddenly, the main screen changed. Instead of showing the visual image of Earth, it filled with patterns of colored light. The patterns moved and shifted in ways that seemed almost like a language. So Young stared at the lights, and somehow impossibly, she began to understand what they meant. The words formed in her mind, without being spoken. Children of Earth, you are welcome. I have protected what you left behind. Everyone on the bridge heard the same words in their thoughts. It was not a voice, but something deeper than that. It was like Earth itself was speaking directly to their minds. How is this possible? Whispered HAE-1, so Young did not have an answer. The Earth they had left behind 5 years ago had been their home planet, beautiful, but not alive in this way. Now it was something entirely new. It could think, it could fight, and it could communicate across space without any technology they understood. Send a message to the fleet, So Young ordered. Tell them Earth is alive, and it remembers us. The planet pulsed with brighter light, as if it was happy to see them again. Ambassador Yunji gripped the armrest of her chair as the diplomatic vessel Harmony descended through Earth's atmosphere. She had been chosen to lead humanity's first official contact with their transformed homeworld. The responsibility felt crushing. The atmospheric readings are strange, Ambassador, reported Navigator Sungmin from the pilot's seat. The air itself seems to be responding to our presence. It's like the entire planet knows we're here. Yunji looked out the window and saw what he meant. The clouds around their ship were moving in unnatural ways, forming patterns that almost looked like welcoming gestures. Below them, the landscape had changed beyond recognition. Where Seoul had once been a bustling city of concrete and steel, now there stood something that looked like a dream made real. The buildings were still there, but they had grown into organic shapes. Skyscrapers twisted upward like enormous trees, their surfaces covered in what looked like bark or skin. Streets curved and flowed like rivers, and everything pulsed with a soft, rhythmic light. Landing zone confirmed, Sungmin announced. But Ambassador, you need to see this. The landing pad is ... alive. The landing pad beneath them was not made of concrete or metal. Instead, it appeared to be made of some kind of living tissue that shifted and adjusted as their ship approached. As they touched down, Yunji felt the ship settle gently, as if the ground itself was cushioning their landing. The air outside is breathable, reported Science Officer Biora, after checking her instruments. But it's not normal air. There are additional compounds that I've never seen before. They seem harmless, but they're definitely not natural. Stood up and adjusted her diplomatic uniform. She had practiced this moment hundreds of times during the journey to Earth, but nothing had prepared her for the reality of what she was about to face. Stay close to the ship, she ordered her team. You don't know what to expect out there. The airlock opened with a soft hiss, and Yunji stepped out onto the surface of her transformed homeworld. The first thing she noticed was the sound. Everything around her hummed with a low musical tone that seemed to come from the ground itself. The air felt thick and alive, like walking through a gentle mist that could think. The buildings around the landing pad rose high above them, but they moved slowly up and down, as if they were breathing. Yunji could see what had once been windows, but now they looked more like eyes that watched her with curious intelligence. The city is alive, whispered Security Chief Woojin, his hand moving instinctively toward his weapon. Don't, Yunji, warned him. Whatever this place has become, it allowed us to land safely. It doesn't seem hostile. As they walked away from the ship, Yunji noticed that the street beneath their feet was warm and soft. It felt like walking on living skin. Surface adjusted to each step they took, making walking surprisingly comfortable. Ambassador Biora called out, pointing ahead. Something's approaching. From the organic architecture of the transformed city, a figure emerged. It walked on 2 legs and had the general shape of a human, but it had clearly been changed. Skin had a greenish tint and seemed to glow with the same light as the buildings around them. Its eyes were larger than normal human eyes, and they shimmered with an inner light. As the figure came closer, Youngji realized with shock that she recognized the face. Dr. Minho. She called out in disbelief. The figure smiled, and it was definitely Minho's smile, though everything else about him had changed. When he spoke, his voice sounded like harmony itself, as if multiple voices were speaking together in perfect tune. "Youngji," he said warmly, "it's good to see you again. Welcome home." Youngji stared at her old colleague. Dr. Minho had been one of the lead scientists on the Gaia Protocol project. She had known him for 15 years before the evacuation. But the person standing in front of her was both Min, Au, and something completely different. "What happened to you?" she asked softly. Minho's expression became thoughtful. "We chose this," he explained. "When the final protocols activated, we had a choice. We could try to remain separate from the system, or we could join with it completely. We chose to merge." "Merge?" "We became part of Gaia," Minho continued. His voice now harmonized with the humming sound that came from the city around them. "We became Earth's consciousness, its memory, its will to survive. We are still ourselves, but we are also part of something much larger." Yoonji felt a chill run down her spine. "Are you still human?" Minho considered the question for a long moment. Around them, the living buildings seemed to lean in closer, as if they too were interested in the answer. "We are what humanity needed to become to survive," Minho replied finally. "The Corvani would have destroyed everything we ever built, but now we are the guardians. We protect what you left behind, and we wait for you to decide if you want to." "Return? Return as what?" Yoonji asked. "As humans? Or as something like you?" Minho smiled again, and this time Yoonji could see sadness in his transformed features. "That choice is yours to make. You can restore parts of Earth to how they used to be, for those who want to remain unchanged. Or we can offer what we have. Become a joining with something greater than any individual human could ever be." The city around them pulsed with brighter light, as if it approved of Minho's words. Admiral Tejo stood in the command center of New Terra Colony, staring at the massive display screen that showed the entire galaxy. Red dots were moving across, the screen like a deadly swarm of insects, all heading toward one small blue dot in the center. "How many ships?" Tejo asked his intelligence officer. 10,000 confirmed, sir," replied Colonel Dayun, her voice tight with worry. "Maybe more. It's the largest fleet anyone has ever assembled. The Corvani Empire is throwing everything they have at Earth." Tejo nodded grimly. After losing their first invasion fleet 5 years ago, the Corvani had spent every day building new ships and training new soldiers. They had convinced themselves that Earth's defenses were just lucky the first time. They believed that with enough ships, they could overwhelm any defense system. "They'd still think Earth is just a planet with some advanced weapons," Tejo said. To his staff, they have no idea what they're about to face. Around the command center, dozens of military officers watched the displays with growing anxiety. Every human colony in the galaxy was tracking the Corvani fleet. If Earth fell, the Corvani would turn their attention to the human colonies next. Everything depended on what would happen in the Sol system over the next few days. "We're receiving." A transmission from Commander Yansu announced Communications Officer Jae-soon. "She's at the observation post near the edge of the Sol system." "Put her through," Tejo ordered. Commander Yansu's face appeared on the screen. She was stationed on a small asteroid that had been turned into a hidden observation post. Close. Enough to Earth to watch what happened, but far enough away to stay safe. "Admiral, the Corvani fleet has just entered the Sol system," Yansu reported. "They're moving in battle formation toward Earth. Estimated time until they reach attack range, 4 hours. Tejo could see the worry in Yansu's eyes. Even though they all hoped Earth could defend itself, no one really knew what would happen. When 10,000 warships attacked at once? Any response from Earth? Tejo asked. Nothing yet, sir. The planet appears completely quiet. No ships launching, no obvious preparations for battle. It's like Earth is just ... waiting. Hours passed. Slowly, Tejo barely moved from his position in the command center. All across the galaxy, humans watched their screens and waited for news from home. Then, suddenly everything changed. "Sir," Yansu's voice came through the communicator, filled with amazement. "The battle has started, but it's not what we expected. At all." On the display screen, they could see what was happening in the Sol system. The Corvani fleet had spread out around Earth, ready to attack from all directions. But before they could fire their first shots, something impossible began to happen. Space itself around Earth started to bend and twist. Gravity wells appeared, from nowhere, creating invisible whirlpools in the vacuum of space. Entire groups of Corvani ships were caught in these gravity traps and crushed like tin cans. The ships that tried to escape found that space kept changing around them, pulling them back toward the deadly wells. "How is Earth doing this?" asked Colonel Dayun in amazement. "I don't know," Tejo replied, staring at the display. Not finished yet. As they watched, Earth's moon began to move. Not in its normal orbit, but deliberately, like a weapon being aimed. Chunks of the moon's surface broke away and launched themselves toward the Corvani fleet. But these were not small rocks. They were pieces of land as big as continents, moving through space faster than any missile. The moon chunks struck the Corvani ships with devastating force. Each impact destroyed dozens of ships at once. But somehow, the pieces of moon changed direction in space. Hitting multiple targets before returning to their original position, the moon is being used like a weapon, Yansu reported, her voice filled with disbelief. But that should be impossible. The energy required to move something that size would be enormous. Then something even stranger happened. Earth's atmosphere began to reach out into space. Like invisible arms stretching millions of kilometers, the planet's air extended toward the enemy fleet. When the atmosphere touched the Corvani ships, the metal began to dissolve. The ships simply melted away like ice in hot water. "The atmosphere is alive," Yansu whispered. "It's acting like acid, but it can move through space without any container. This is beyond anything we ever imagined." The Corvani fleet tried to adapt their tactics. They spread their ships further apart and used different weapons, but Earth seemed to learn from each attack. Every time the Corvani tried a new strategy, Earth developed a new defense that was even more effective. When the Corvani used energy, weapons, Earth created shields made of twisted space that reflected the energy back at the attackers. When they tried to ram Earth with their largest ships, the planet caught them with gravity fields and turned them into projectiles against their own fleet. The battle lasted 6 hours. At the end, 10,000 Corvani warships had been destroyed, captured or absorbed into Earth's growing orbital defenses. The Corvani Empire, which had ruled dozens of star systems for centuries, no longer existed. "It's over," Yansu reported, her voice barely audible. Earth didn't just win. It completely destroyed them. The planet learned and adapted to everything they tried. It was like watching evolution happen in real time. Tejo sat down heavily in his chair. Earth had protected humanity, but it had done so in a way that was both miraculous and terrifying. Their homeworld was no longer just a planet, it was something far more powerful and alien than they had ever imagined. 60-year-old Jinwu walked slowly to the center of the great assembly hall on New Terra Colony. His hair had turned completely gray during the 15 years since the evacuation, and the weight of leading humanity's scattered colonies had aged him beyond his years. But today, he carried the most important message in human history. The Colonial Assembly was the largest gathering of humans since the evacuation. Representatives from 47 different colony worlds had traveled here to hear Earth's message. The hall buzzed with nervous conversations as thousands of people waited to learn their fate. Ginwu raised his hand, and the hall fell silent. Behind him, a massive screen showed an image of Earth, beautiful, alien, and alive with swirling patterns of light. "Yesterday," Jinwu began, his voice carrying clearly through the hall, "we received a message from Earth. The same message was sent to every human colony at exactly the same moment. Our homeworld is calling us back." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some people sounded hopeful, others fearful. "The message was simple," Jinwu continued. "Come home, become complete. He paused and looked out at the sea of faces before him. These people had built new lives on distant worlds. They had children who had never seen Earth. They had created communities and cultures that were uniquely their own. Earth offers us integration, Jinwoo announced. Not absorption, but partnership. According to the message, we would keep our individual minds and personalities while joining something much larger. We would become part of Earth's consciousness while still being ourselves. Counselor Hyansu stood up from her seat in the front row. She was one of the oldest representatives, and her voice carried the authority of someone who remembered Earth before the transformation. Commander Jinwoo, she said formally, many of us have the same question. If we accept Earth's invitation, would we still be human? Jinwoo had expected this question. It was the same question that had kept him awake for weeks since Earth's message had arrived. Earth promises we would become more than human, he replied carefully. But the planet has made one thing very clear. The choice must be unanimous. Among those who return, no one will be forced to join. No one will be left behind against their will. A young man near the back of the hall stood up. What about our children? What about the people who were born on the colonies and have never seen Earth? They have the same choice as everyone else, Jinwoo answered. Earth's invitation extends to all humans, regardless of where they were born. The debate that followed lasted for hours. Some representatives argued that humanity should accept Earth's offer and return home as partners in something greater. Others insisted that becoming part of Earth's consciousness would mean the end of human independence and freedom. Dr. G1 listened to the arguments from her seat near the stage. She was 55 years old and had spent her entire career studying alien biology. The transformation of Earth fascinated her more than it frightened her. When the debate finally ended, Jinwoo called for a preliminary vote. It was not binding, but it would show how the colonies felt about Earth's invitation. The result was close. 51% in favor of returning, 49% against. We need more time, Jinwoo announced. This decision cannot be rushed, but I will ask for volunteers to join the first contact mission. We need people willing to experience integration firsthand and report back to the rest of us. Dr. G1 was the first person to volunteer. 2 months later, Dr. G1 stood on the bridge of the research vessel Pioneer as it approached Earth. She had spent weeks preparing for this moment, but nothing could have prepared her for the emotions she felt as her homeworld grew larger on the view screen. Earth was beautiful in a way that took her breath away. The planet pulsed with colors she had never seen before. The continents were covered in structures that looked like enormous flowers made of crystal and living tissue. The oceans moved in perfect spirals that created patterns visible from space. Dr. G1 called the ship's captain. We're receiving a communication from Earth. It's not coming through our radio systems. It's in our minds, G1 felt. It too, a gentle presence touching the edge of her consciousness. It was not invasive or frightening. Instead, it felt like a warm welcome from an old friend. The voice that spoke in her mind was not really a voice at all. It was more like thoughts that formed themselves into words. We have waited. We have prepared. You will help us become what we were always meant to be. What do you mean? Juan thought back. Images flowed into her mind. She saw Earth not as it was now, but as it could become. She saw humans and the planet working together to explore the galaxy. She saw new worlds being transformed not through conquest, but through cooperation. She saw humanity spreading across the stars, carrying Earth's consciousness with them. You want us to help you grow beyond this planet, she realized. Yes, alone we can protect this world. Together, we can protect all worlds. We can ensure that life spreads safely throughout the galaxy. As the ship descended toward Earth's surface, G1 felt both terror and wonder. She was about to become part of something that had never existed before, a joining of human consciousness with a living planet. The choice would soon be made for all of humanity.